underrated horror films. I have got 6 more movies that might be off your radar, but I think you should put on your list if you are looking for chills, for thrills, to feel your feelings, and maybe to have your stomach turned completely. And in case you need an excuse to get out of spelunking for some reason. Hello, welcome or welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Sinead and this is my spooky corner of YouTube, where I talk about the spooky books that I've read, the spooky films that I've watched, and I share the spooky shenanigans that I occasionally get up to, and do whatever Black Phillip tells me. Butter? Yeah, I could have some butter. Today I am back with more underrated, under-the-radar horror films that I think more people should watch. You can go and check out the first video I did on this, 5 underrated horror films that a lot of people responded to. As someone who watches horror films year-round and has been watching horror films since, well, I started watching films way too young. There are a few gems that I keep a little list of and love to throw at people if they go, looking for something new? Well, let me terrify you. I've got 6 films from my list, but I'm also including a bonus 2 from you guys. These were films that came up again and again and again in the comments because you either thought that they would be my cup of tea or you just couldn't get over how good they were. I have since watched them and I'll be including them this time. Very quick housekeeping before we start. I use stills in my videos rather than footage from the films. If you do want to check out footage or the trailers, you can of course go and search for those. I'll share where I watch these films and where you can currently access them based on what I can see from my searches, but please do check where these films are available in your region. Just Watch is a very good website for checking streaming details, and of course if you know of somewhere where you can access any of these films for free in particular countries, feel free to leave those in the comments. If you're in the comments and someone has a different viewpoint, please be kind. Do be mindful of spoilers, put a warning at the top, just make sure it's below the fold before you ruin it for anyone else. Big thank you to everyone who watched my previous video and left really great comments and loads of suggestions of films. It was great chat. To the person who kept saying, why am I talking in a YouTube video? What? At the time of recording this video, it's October 2025, and if you are here because you are embracing spooky season, you are looking for horror films to watch on the run-up to Halloween, I've also got a separate playlist all dedicated to spooky season. That's got book suggestions, movies, TV shows, anything that's going to scratch the Halloween itch is in there. Let's go. I knew this film was going to be at the top of my second video's list. It was one of the most popular mentions in the comments of the previous video. We're going to start with Lake Mungo. This came out in 2008 and it is currently available to stream on Amazon Prime. This is an Australian film and it is a mockumentary. Told through a series of interviews, home video footage, and news coverage, we follow the story of the Palmer family who are reeling from the disappearance and death of their teenage daughter, Alice. The documentary is seeking to find out what happened to Alice. The family are revealing their utter pain at her loss, their confusion about what was happening in her life in the run-up to her disappearance, but also there are details of strange events that happened before and after her death. There are apparitions, there are strange things that have occurred, there are secrets as well within Alice's circle. As we watch the family's grief unfold, we start to question who or what was really responsible for Alice's death. Mockumentaries are hard to get right. I've watched a few over the years, and this is also classed as a found footage film in some circles. You're trying to present something as if it is real, as if no one is acting through these stories, but Lake Mungo does it incredibly well. You've got very good actors in it. They are doing a very good job with a very good script. It's got lots of layers to it. You've got people processing their grief and sharing their feelings, and their grief is really palpable, I think, through this film. But it's also got those supernatural hints and twists in it, and it does a good job of sort of posing the question in the film, are people reaching for an explanation of what happened to their daughter because they can't process their grief? It gives you shocking revelations, it gives you twists, it gives you the turns and the high drama, also mixed with the mundanity of everyday life that you do get in great documentaries, in great true crime documentaries. You are sensing that the family are desperately looking for answers, that they have spiraled to a place that is frankly ludicrous to, you know, the viewer at home going, you are processing something awful that has happened to you, this terrible, terrible loss of this teenage girl, and what is that driving people to believe? I was watching Unknown Number recently, which is the big documentary that loads of people have been talking about in 2025. True story with a huge revelation in the middle of it. And watching that made me want to go back and watch Lake Mungo, because that film gives me the same sort of feeling of satisfaction. I think the reason that Lake Mungo works is that it had a great story at its heart and it never overplays its hand, and it does go to a good conclusion. I found the conclusion really satisfying. I love Lake Mungo. This is a sub kind of like bullet point recommendation. I recently watched Horror in the High Desert. This is again a mockumentary found footage film about a hiker who went missing in the desert, who said that he had stumbled across something very strange there. And go look it up. It's not perfect. It's a decent story. It's a bit kind of okay, stretching imagination, but the end of that film, where it shows some found footage of what the guy may have found in the desert, was really frightening when I watched it. Overall, an okay film, but some of the scenes at the end of it, I jumped out of my seat. Oh no. That film had a limited release. I think it's part of a series now, but if anyone else has seen Horror in the High Desert, what did you think of it? Moving from mockumentaries to gothic ghost stories, but quite a bright, sunshiny one. This is Marrowbone. It's also known as The Secret of Marrowbone. This came out in 2017, and this is available to rent on Amazon Prime and also Apple. Set in 1968, Marrowbone is the story of 4 siblings and their mother as they escape a hidden, dark past in England, and they travel to America, to the mother's ancestral home. They move into this huge, crumbling, rambling mansion, and they are going to stay there and hide away from the world. Following their mother's death, the 4 siblings are fearful that people will come and try to break them up, as they are not technically adults yet. The siblings agree to keep her death a secret, and they will wait out a few months until Jack turns 18 and can become their legal guardian. But as time passes, the peace that they have in the house begins to unravel. Not only are there people in the outside world who come a knocking at the door and start interfering, but they're also fearful that something incredibly sinister is inside the house, and they don't know what they can do to keep the darkness out. First of all, this film looks great. It's a gothic story, but it's one full of sunshine. The home that the children live in, I believe it's in Maine, and it's beautiful, beautiful surroundings, and there's always sunshine, and it's always really, really bright around them, while you have this very traditional gothic, ghostly, weird, creepy story at the heart of it. This has also got a cracking cast in it. You've got George McKay, you've got Mia Goth, Anya Taylor-Joy. This film, to me, felt like a really good novel. It felt like a very well layered, ghostly, gothic, creepy tale. It felt like something that Sarah Waters would write. And when I watched it, I was really blown away by how much I liked it. This family are in this impossible situation, these teenage siblings. You've got one who's a lot younger, and they are battling with the grief of losing their mother, of them trying to stay together, of trying to be adults, of trying to be grown-ups, of trying to keep the outside world out so nothing shatters their peace. But also, what is inside the house is really, really frightening. And there's also this mysterious element of what did they run from in England. And the more you learn about that, that is compelling. It's dark and it's twisted, but it is absolutely captivating. All of these elements work so well together in Marrowbone to make it a great gothic, ghostly, spooky story. There are comparisons, I think, to be made with this film and some other well-known ghostly films out there. Those who have seen it probably know what I'm talking about, and I don't want to say it because it might give too much of a hint of the direction this film goes in. I really enjoyed it, very well acted, well scripted, and yeah, a great gothic tale soaked in sunshine. Next is a film that you need to brace yourself for because it is an emotional gut punch. It is the very, very good film His House. His House was released in 2020. It is available on Netflix. After surviving a traumatic journey fleeing their native South Sudan, a refugee couple arrive in their government-assigned home in England. It is grotty, it is run down, and they are made painfully aware that they are expected to behave and adapt now they are in England. But as they try and settle into their new life, they realise that there is more to the house than they first knew. The walls of the house are home to a presence that will not let them rest and not let them forget where they have come from and force them to confront all manner of horrors. And we, the viewers, see that they are being haunted by things that are far worse than we could have imagined. This film is about trauma, it is about grief, it is about witches, it is about survivor's guilt. I knew going into this that it was probably going to be a hard watch, a ghostly horror story about a refugee couple. And yes, you do see the way that this refugee couple is treated, the prejudice that they encounter immediately, the horrible house that they live in. It's miserable. It's a miserable existence that they've come to, but they are being told from the start, you should be grateful. You should be grateful just to have this. The couple are carrying multiple traumas, but also multiple secrets as well. and this house will make them confront. It would be very easy, and it has been done very well multiple times, to make a simple horror film about the horrors of racism, about the horrors that refugees face when trying to survive. Not only do we have this, but we also have a very, very well-rounded story of the couple themselves. They are not caricatures, they're not two-dimensional, where it's just purely tugging at the heartstrings of melodrama. They are fully formed characters, and their backstory, I did not know the direction it was going to go in, and yeah, was left going, oh, okay. This film is also very scary. The hauntings, the ghostly figures, the things that you see glimpsed and creeping around, unsettling. Unsettling in so many ways. While this film doesn't batter you over the head with moral messages, you will be left thinking about what are the true horrors that we carry with us. His House, please check it out. This one is specifically for the film nerds out there, maybe the film students, anyone who really, really loves film. This is Censor. This came out in 2021. I believe you may be able to stream it on Amazon Prime, but it is certainly available to rent on Amazon and also Apple. Set in 1980s Britain, right at the time where there was a lot of panic about video nasties, this is the story of film censor Enid, who has to watch incredibly violent, graphic, horrible films every day and cut certain scenes so they will be suitable for the public. Enid is quiet, she is straight-laced, she is mocked by her male colleagues who would like nothing more than putting more violent, graphic, sexual imagery into films, and she's also haunted by the disappearance of her sister. Enid is absolutely convinced her sister is still alive, while her parents have long given her up for dead. But then one day Enid receives a mysterious film, and when she looks at it, she feels that this is a clue to where her sister might be. Enid becomes fixated on this film and the idea that her sister is not only alive, but has also been taken into the horrid world of snuff films. As she tries to investigate what happens, her world becomes distorted. We start to question whether Enid is okay in herself, whether she is making all of this stuff up in her head, or if there is really something very sinister and possibly supernatural going on. If you remember the panic around video nasties, if you, like me, studied film and studied film censorship, this film is really, really interesting to watch. I think there's a lot that you can get out of it. It's an unsettling and uncanny film in so many ways, and it's a great film that poses so many of the questions that were bandied around in the 80s and that have been bandied around censorship and film censorship for years. What will the effect be on a person from watching violent horror, violent images regularly? What effect will that have on someone? All the way through the film, you are wondering, is Enid deluded about her sister? She is such a sort of a straight person, but she is working in this environment where she has to watch horrific things on screen every day. She has to endure horrible comments from her colleagues, this world that is really seedy and unsettling. What effect is that having on her? Is her watching all the violence warping her head? Has she become influenced by the things she sees, or is she completely immune to it, and what's really affecting her is trauma? Is what's happened to her in the past, is that the real horror? And what she sees on screen, oh, nothing, cathartic, it doesn't matter to her. Really, really interesting film, and the way it goes down this path of who is to blame for what's happening to Enid. What will trauma do to you? How do people exploit the film industry? The whole idea about censorship, what is permissible, what, you know, by society, by our own moral standards of what we watch on screen. If you are a horror fan and you love watching horror, if you don't mind about violent images, I think Censor is a very good film. It is uncanny, it's slow burn in some ways. In some ways it's really not. It's just kind of got that unsettling eeriness to it. But Enid's journey is fascinating to watch, and I loved the way this film ended. I really, really liked it. It's got nods to so many different horror films and tropes in there. I found it very satisfying. A film that got loads of praise when it came out, but I do not hear enough people talking about Censor. From the darkness of those films, I'm going to take you to slightly lighter, but still pretty gory territory. The next two films are in the fairy tale category. And I was so glad when I saw quite a few people mentioning this next one, because it's one of my favourite films of all time. It's The Company of Wolves. This came out in 1984. You can currently watch this in the UK on ITVX, but it's also available to rent on Amazon. The Company of Wolves is a reimagining of the story of Red Riding Hood, but specifically this was an adaptation of Angela Carter's short story of the same name from her collection, The Bloody Chamber. That book took some of the classic fairy tales that we know and love, very dark from the Grimm fairy tales, but have been Disneyfied in some ways over the years, and she reimagined them, and she gave them much more of an adult sensibility. She twisted them, she retold them in her inimitable way. The Bloody Chamber is a wonderful collection of stories. In The Company of Wolves, you have a young girl, Rosaline. At the beginning of the film, it's set in the modern day, and she is sleeping and she is dreaming of this world, and that's where the film goes. It goes into her dreams. We go to fairy tale times of an oldie worldy village in a misty forest, and there Rosaline lives with her sister, with her parents, but one day her sister is killed by a wolf. As the parents are grieving, Rosaline goes and stays with her grandmother. Rosaline has a lovely red cloak that her grandmother has made her. Rosaline's grandmother tells her stories of men with eyebrows that meet in the middle, of wolves that wear men's faces, various tall tales and stories that she has gathered over the years to warn Rosaline about being careful in the woods and being aware of the wolves. We see these stories unfold on screen, and we also follow Rosaline as she is coming of age and she is emerging as a young woman, and also developing a curiosity with what actually goes on in the woods, and people have a curiosity towards her. This is a coming of age story in many ways. It is a fantasy. It is a horror because there are truly horrific moments in it. It is full of werewolves. Red Riding Hood with a twist. It's about innocence. It's about desire, about corruption, transformation, and loads of folklore in there. This is a very sensual film in many ways, and it's not intended to be lurid in that sense of just sort of quite grotesque, of sort of, oh yeah, let's just make everything sexy in this film. It sort of feels naturally like that feeling of emerging desire. And with this, you have all of these fairy tales, which, you know, started out as morality tales that people would whisper around the fireplace, create tall tales to warn their children of not wandering off into the woods. Don't trust strange men. They could be werewolves. The film looks great. It does obviously feel dated now because it is 40 years old, but the sets, the costumes, many of the people working on the film, one of the set designers went on to work with Tim Burton. The forests around it, I was reading recently that Neil Jordan, the director, wanted the forest to look sensual, wanted to sort of have an eroticism through it, which is really weird when you watch it back and you're going to go, oh, those trees are quite sexy. Very indulgent, very dreamy, very weird in that maybe quintessentially 80s way. I love this film. I wish more people saw it, and I am so glad quite a few people in the comments went, have you seen A Company of Wolves? The Company of Wolves, yes I have. Yes I have. Also, let's just pay our respects to the fact that Angela Lansbury is in this film. And the next fairy tale that I promised you, this is quite a recent one because it came out in 2025, but I think it's one of my top watches of the year, and I hope that more people see it and embrace the horror that was The Ugly Stepsister. I believe this is available on Shudder, but it is also available to rent in the usual places. This is a Norwegian film, and it takes the story of Cinderella and it reimagines it from the perspective of one of the ugly stepsisters. We have Elvira, the main stepsister that this is going to focus on. We have the old story where you have the wicked stepmother and her two daughters arriving at the home of Cinderella. In this story, she's called Agnes, and she arrives with her two daughters to marry Agnes's father, and Agnes's father dies quite quickly, and they realize that they are poor. They don't have any money. The father didn't have any money. The new wife certainly didn't have any money, and the best thing that they can do is marry off the daughters. In this story, Agnes, our Cinderella figure, is truly beautiful, but she is haughty, she is condescending to the sisters, she has no interest whatsoever of engaging with them. And yeah, she's every right to be annoyed because the stepmother absolutely puts her to work, but she's not this angelic, innocent figure. She knows her beauty and she knows she can use it. But we're following Elvira who is naive and is not blessed with the beauty that Agnes has. And so the mother decides if Elvira is going to marry the prince who is boorish and gross and horrible, we meet him, he gives you the ick, but he is their route to wealth. So Elvira is going to have to go through a few changes. They are going to subject her to all sorts of body modification processes. Fix the nose, fix the eyelashes, give her some things to help her lose a lot of weight, and then she'll be suitable for the prince and society. This film is incredibly gory in parts because it is one of the best examples of true body horror that I have seen in a while. And I'm not talking about body horror as in let's just do the grossest things possible with hacking people to pieces, which is great, which we all have time for. No, this is the horror of the body, of having a woman's body that does not conform to society. And in this fairy tale setting, you have Elvira subjected to all sorts of horrible procedures, and it's graphic, but very well done, of what she will do to please her mother, to win love. She is so naive in the belief that the prince is going to fall in love with her, that he is going to be her savior, and she has to look right for him. And it's so, you're watching it going, oh babe, it for a fairy tale, it is so scarily bang up to date relevant. Elvira really is the victim of this story, and it is a story that youth and beauty wins every time. That you don't have to be nice, you don't have to be kind, you will ultimately win because that's what people want. Some people may be familiar with the original, I say original, the Brothers Grimm version of Cinderella, and what the stepsisters did to themselves to fit their foot into the glass slipper. If you know that, you know the direction this film is going in. And it's used on some of the posters as well. Yeah. It works back from that point. There are grim scenes in it. There are explicit scenes in it as well. It never feels gratuitous, even though it's horrible what Elvira goes through. And so much of it you could look at and kind of go, yeah, most of what she does, people do to themselves today in a different form or another. Tapeworms, someone I know didn't think that that was real. But I must also stress, as well as having very good examples of body horror, it's superbly acted. It's got such a strong cast who tell this gruesome, miserable story that is in such a lavish fairy tale setting. I loved The Ugly Stepsister. If you haven't seen it yet, please put it on your list. As someone who isn't massively a fan of gore and body horror, this film is absolutely worth it. Those were the 6 films that were on my original list, but now I come to 2 recommendations that you guys gave me, and I think, yeah, why not? This one, so many people commented, so many people have mentioned it in several of my videos that I've done, because most people on here, if you're a subscriber, you know I love the Gothic, I love Gothic books, I love Gothic films, and they said, get a bit of Southern Gothic with The Skeleton Key. 2005 film starring Kate Hudson. This is available to rent on Amazon. We follow Caroline, a hospice nurse who is looking after an elderly man on this decaying plantation estate deep in the Louisiana bayou. You've got the great Gothic tropes. You've got a big scary house, sounds and signs and stuff around. You have the wife of the elderly man who's completely incapacitated, played by John Hurt, and John Hurt doesn't get to do a lot in this. But the wife, played by Gina Rowlands, she's so sweetness and light, southern hospitality, but she is hiding something. The more time Caroline spends at this house, she realizes there's something very wrong and there's some sort of plot at foot. I had never seen this film until so many people recommended it, and it absolutely does deliver in terms of Gothic, Southern Gothic, over the top, good story about hoodoo, about magic. It is not the most nuanced film in the world. Many people say that it is a predecessor to a particular Jordan Peele film. Again, I'm not going to say the film, you can probably work it out, but yes, I agree. I think that Jordan Peele's film is much more nuanced. But this film is great fun. If you want Southern Gothic vibes and you don't mind it being a bit hokey, a bit OTT, Caroline, she doesn't have a lot of agency beyond running around going, I'm going to solve this mystery, but it does build to a decent ending and a twist. Skeleton Key, absolutely worth your time. And a film that comes up again and again and again with people recommending it now as an underrated horror, though at the time of its release, it was really impactful. It's The Descent. The Descent came out in 2005 and it is available to rent on Amazon Prime. But very importantly, you need to watch the UK version. I did not realize that there were 2 versions of this film, but the UK version has the ending that people talk about. The Descent is about a group of female friends, all female cast, who are going to a caving expedition in the Appalachian Mountains. That's a bad idea. A year previously, one of them experienced a tragic loss with the death of her husband and her child, but they are going on this big spelunking trip to heal, to be together. But of course they go to this uncharted, unmapped area. They're going to find something new. And as soon as they go into the caves start collapsing and they get trapped in there. This is what happens when you go to caves. The women are trying to find a way out and keep it together in a very claustrophobic, frightening situation. And then they realize they're not alone down there. I didn't see The Descent when it first came out, and I've spoken to quite a few horror fans since about this film who did see it back in 2005. This was a film that has since been copied, I think, and since been inspired so many people. It was such an impactful movie because of its claustrophobia, the tension, having an entirely female cast as well, and the horror down in those caves of the terrifying things that they find down there. It's a very, very good, unsettling, uncomfortable film because you have this wonderful setting of the caves, of them being stuck down there. There are scenes even before the horror, traditional horror really starts, of them moving through those tight spaces and panicking. Yeah, I'm not claustrophobic, I am now, having seen that film. What they find down there is very frightening, it's tense, and it does have an absolutely brilliant ending, but you need to watch the UK version. Some people may not thank me for recommending that. You may watch The Descent now, as I did recently, and recognise how this story has been sort of copied and taken and adapted over the years and been done again and again and again. So you might watch it and go, well, this doesn't feel particularly fresh, but you have to remember that this was so impactful at the time. Of course, inspired by earlier films, but The Descent now feels like an underrated horror. I was thinking about it for several days afterwards, shuddering. There you have it. That's my latest list of underrated horror films that I think need to be on your list. Are there any films that you would recommend that people need to be talking about? Spooky films, gory films, weird films, anything in the horror genre that you cannot stop yapping about to people? And let me know if you loved any of the films that I mentioned on this list today. Please do subscribe to my channel to get more regular content from me. Check out my other videos on spooky books and spooky films to enjoy any time of the year. And leave me a comment if you've got suggestions of things you'd like to hear from me in the future. Film or book related, I don't mind. Stay spooky, bye-bye. Is it a salted butter, or are we talking that kind of sort of more European, sort of like lightly salted, but not? I don't think I'm overthinking this. What do you mean you backed the wrong horse?